The Atlanta Braves rally late, scoring more runs in the eighth inning and then holding on through a wild game to beat the Diamondbacks in 10 innings. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. He's Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Do us a favor, subscribe to the audio feed for Locked On Braves, or if you get your podcasts. Also, on YouTube, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, because we're trying to break down every single game this season. And Jake, this is a crazy one to break down. The Atlanta Braves take down the Diamondbacks 8-7 in 10 innings in a game that was back and forth, multiple different lead changes. Never really felt like this game was settled, even all the way through the final out, which had to get overturned on replay review. Before we get into the details, how's your blood pressure?
Yeah, this is, I think, the wildest game of the year for me. I mean, Braves with a lead earlier, then Diamondbacks take it, and then kind of feel like the Diamondbacks pulled away a little bit, and then Eli gets them a little bit closer, and then next thing you know, the Braves in that eighth inning once again, and then you blow it, and then, I mean, it was just a wild ride in this one. But the Braves come out on top. That's all that matters. They're finding ways to win right now, and that's what's important. And look, watching this game, I just get that feeling right now. The Braves are going to find a way, and it's great to have that feeling about this team once again.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, as soon as they scored in the eighth inning, I usually have to go in here and make the background and change the thumbnail. I went ahead and started doing victory stuff because I'm confident that they're going to make this happen. And they proved me right. It took a little while. I want to get to the pitching after the break. We're going to talk about the offense first, because it felt like a 9 hits, but Atlanta scores 8 runs off the 9 hits. They draw 6 walks, I think, is a big part of it. And the timely hitting seemed to really be the theme here. When you kind of, Atlanta only 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position, but it felt like all of those hits were huge, whether it was Michael Harris's 8th inning double that scored 2. Just every time they needed to get that big hit, it feels like they got it, especially late.
Well, particularly in the 8th inning, I would say that there was a lull in the offense there between innings, I guess, 3 and until Eli White homered. So the 7th and 8th inning, I felt like the at-bats were kind of lacking a little bit. But, I mean, the 8th inning in particular, just to be able to come through like that, some good at-bats. And I know we're going to focus on, Michael Harris and coming through with the big hits, but the walks too. I mean, Sean Murphy, the guy takes his walks and some of the walks, the pitches that he took tonight, I mean, they were really close pitches, and this umpire was all over the place at time. You really didn't want to put it in his hands, and he took some really close pitches for walks at the bottom of the zone tonight that just show he has an incredible eye with those glasses. So, I mean, it's great to see. I know they were really good with runners in scoring position. I don't remember the number on Friday, but then they come back tonight. They're 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. So getting those opportunities and taking advantage of them, they seem to be either getting a little bit better than that, or maybe things in the way it does in baseball is just finally starting to average out a little bit more.
Yeah, it was Olsen and Murphy, those 2 walks in the 8th inning. I went back and looked, 13 combined pitches, and none of them swung at a single pitch out of the zone. And to your point, especially on Murphy's at-bat, there were some Matt Olson's at-bat was very clear. It was either clearly a ball or it was in the zone. But Sean Murphy, some very close pitches that they did not swing at. And you saw exactly how close some of those pitches were. We're going to get to it later, but Dazabel in the 8th inning really kind of getting squeezed on some of those close pitches. But Atlanta's this isn't maybe the 2023 offense. I don't think we're ever going to see offense like that again. That was a confluence of everything. But this feels like the Atlanta Braves offense that we were hoping for, that we were expecting. And the big thing that stood out to me is you mentioned the walks there. Everybody, it felt like, had the ability to put the ball in play. Everybody had the ability to get deep into at-bats. I don't remember very many first pitch swings, ground outs, pop flies. There were a couple, but it felt like overall, with that lull in the middle innings, The Braves just did a better job of battling and making Arizona's pitchers work for every out. And I feel like that's something you were really missing from this offense early in the year.
Yeah, they've done a much better job of that. I thought they did it pretty well in those first couple of games, and then it's like they weren't getting the results, so they just kind of reverted back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I do feel like they've done a much better job of that here over the last week or so. Like I said, my only complaint was just a lull in those middle innings because they Merrill Kelly really in those first 2 innings, and then you saw some quicker innings. You saw some easier outs and didn't continue to apply that pressure on them. And then you get into the late innings, they get into that bullpen, and you see it kind of come back, which credit to Merrill Kelly. He's a good pitcher. He got the big lead, and he just started to fill up the zone and got some weak contact like he should. But that was kind of my only complaint. But what I liked about this game, last night we talked about it. They score 8 runs without the home run. And then early on in this game, it was kind of like the opposite. It's like, well, they're only scoring with the home run. They got the 2 solo home runs. You got the home run from Eli White, but then you combine it with that 8th inning and they put it all together. And that's how dangerous this offense can be. You start combining the 2 things where you're getting the good at bats, you're getting the hits and runners in scoring position, you're stringing those hits together in an inning, and you're also getting that big 2-run home run, those 3 home runs a game like you got tonight. And that's what this offense can ultimately be, and why I still think it can be one of the best offenses in baseball.
Yeah, and I was trying to check this while they were playing. Atlanta has scored more runs in the 8th inning this year than they've played 8th innings. They have 30 runs in the 8th inning. They've only played 26 games. And at some point, I'm starting to wonder, just tell the guys that every inning's the 8th inning. Just build the whole plane out of the 8th inning. But to your point of getting the solo shots, 3 home runs in this one, Marcell Ozuna's 5th, Sean Murphy's 7th, Eli White 2nd. Obviously, he's now driven in, I think, 7 runs in his last 8 plate appearances. So definitely feels like you've got to keep Eli White in the lineup there. You also saw a couple stolen bases from Atlanta as well. Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. And you didn't have the statistical results from everybody. Nick Allen goes 0 for 3 at the bottom of the lineup. Austin Riley goes 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. But it felt like consistently up and down the lineup, having this mix of having White and Allen, having Harris batting 7th, you have not only the better team speed that we've talked about, but you're just getting better approaches and better at bats consistently up and down. It's not something where the heart of your lineup has to carry you. 4 of your RBIs came from your 7 and 8 hitters. And when a Braves offense is doing that, it feels like it's going to be very hard to beat this baseball team consistently.
I love 7, 8, 9 in this order right now. And I'm not just saying that to pat myself on the back, because this is what I asked for a couple of weeks ago, is just put Harris down at the bottom, put the speed down at the bottom of the lineup. So if those guys get on, it sets it up for your Ozunas, your Rileys, and Olsons at the top. It makes a lot of sense for me. Those aren't necessarily high on base guys, but they are guys, if they get on, then they have some speed so that your guys with all those power can drive them in. And it seems to be working. I mean, Harris, big hit tonight. He seems to be more relaxed down there at the bottom of the order. Eli White, obviously what he's doing, you might have to bet him 3rd the way that he's going right now. Nick Allen, look, whatever you get from him is just cherry on the top. Played great defense, made some good plays tonight. He did get a walk later in this game. So everybody reached base except for Riley. I don't want to be a sour grape here, but it was a pretty awful night for Austin Riley. But everybody else
for Austin Riley so far.
Yeah, at least everybody else, got on base, contributed in some way. But that 7, 8, 9 in the order right now, I think is working really well for this Braves team and flipping the lineup over.
To your note on Harris moving down there, since Verdugo joined it, Harris has been towards the bottom of the lineup most of the time. He entered the last homestand batting 179. He's now batting 253. He's 13 for 30 with a homer, 2 doubles, 5 RBI, and 5 runs and 7 RBI since he got bumped down there towards the bottom almost every single game. So big kind of change, big improvement we're seeing there. Him being down there versus leadoff has kind of changed the dynamic of this team a little bit, along with Eli White being hot. In just a second, I want to get to the pitching. We got to talk about Grant Holmes, but we've really got to talk about Raisel Iglesias. We'll do that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Like, you can turn any TV into a gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, EA Sports College Football 25. Soon you can dive into EA Sports College Football 26, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed, as easily as you stream your favorite shows, because it is gaming made simple and it's all on your Fire TV. We personally love doing this when we travel. I have 2 young kids. They both love playing video games. We don't have to take an Xbox with us if we're going to be out of town for a week or so. We can just take a Fire TV stick, plug it into any TV in the hotel, Airbnb, whatever it is, have some controllers, and they can play games just like we were at home with our Xbox. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. It's available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K first and second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Okay, Jake, so Grant Holmes, we're going to get to Iglesias in a second. Grant Holmes struggled a little bit in this one. The issue there seemed to be just kind of losing his command in that 4th inning. And the 3rd inning, he strikes out the side, but the Tim Tawa strikeout, the second strikeout there, 8-pitch at bat, he finally gets him on a slider below the zone to get that strikeout. And then after 2 walks, Gabriel Moreno comes up with 1 out, just works Grant Holmes. It's like an 11-pitch at bat, and he hits that slider below the zone, right? Lines it to left field. Both runners score. So when Eugenio Suarez is up, who's already homered once today, instead of trying to get him out on that slider, he actually got his second strike on that slider. He tries to elevate a fastball above the zone, and Suarez pops it for the home run, pushes it to 5-1. Holmes rebounded to make it into the 6th inning. He did give up a 3rd home run to Suarez in the 6th. We're going to get to Suarez too. It felt like the command and the ability to throw stuff for strikes was really the problem for Holmes here. I don't think he threw anything more than 50% of the time for strikes, and he just wasn't reliably in the zone enough to get guys to always chase.
I really think it was that 4th inning. Outside of the 4th inning, I thought he was okay, but you lead off the inning with 2 walks there, and then, like you said,
non-competitive walks too.
Yeah, and it's just completely lost it for a minute there. And you add that to the Moreno at bat that you're talking about, where I thought he did throw some good pitches, and Moreno did a good job just continuing to foul him off, and then was able to square one up. And so now at this point, it's a long inning. You've thrown a lot of pitches. Your command's kind of all over the place, and you're facing Eugenio Suarez on a night where he was just unreal. I mean, a historic night for him. But yeah, I mean, outside of the 4th inning, I thought he was okay. Like you said, I thought it was good to see him at least get into the 6th inning. I think we kind of get the idea of what Grant Holmes is at this point as a starter. It's not somebody that's going to get a lot of swing and miss. It's somebody that's really just going to have to rely on missing the barrels and throwing enough strikes, but walks have been a problem for him so far early in the season, and that's got him in trouble. So if he can figure that out, I think he can be a solid, 4th, 5th starter in a rotation. Certainly. I think that the slider and the breaking pitches he are good enough for that. But you can't walk the first 2 guys of an inning like that, especially not against an offense like this. They were itching to get back out there after a rough Friday night for them, and you saw how good these bats can be.
Yeah. And then, Atlanta takes this lead. Raisel Iglesias in the 9th gives up the home run to Suarez, the 4th home run of the game for Eugenio Suarez. I do believe this is the first time Atlanta has won a game when the opponent has 4 home runs against them. I think I saw that on social media. But are we at the point of being concerned about Raisel Iglesias, and what do we do about it? Because I went back and kind of looked at some of this. Last year, 259 batters faced, 69 in the 3rd innings, 4 home runs. This season, 40 batters over 10 innings, 5 home runs. This feels like more than just he didn't work enough in spring.
For me, yes, I'm worried, first of all.
Yeah.
But it's also the same worry that I have with Chris Sale, where I really think it is just something mechanical that is off right now, because everything just continues to be up. I said it, the first pitch he threw in that 9th inning, it was a changeup, left up, middle of the plate. And I said, okay, he doesn't have it. He's going to give up a home run here. And he eventually did. But, as I've said numerous times, when Raisel Iglesias is on, everything's down at the bottom. It's on the corners, and everything so far this season has just been up. So it leads me to believe that it's just something mechanical there. maybe something injury related. I know they really don't want you to do the Phantom IL stint anymore, but I really think that's maybe what Raisel Iglesias needs right now is you just need a little bit of break. Either that or you got to try to give him some more lower leverage situations to get back on track. But I do think it is just the location's off, the command's off. Everything is up right now from the first outing he had this year. Everything's just up in the zone, and that's going to lead to more home runs when you're leaving the changeup and slider up in the zone.
When you pull the pitch plot here on it, it looks like he threw 5 strikes in the zone, another pitch on the edge, and then 4 clear balls. All of those strikes were middle of the zone or higher.
Yeah.
And it was a mix of, he threw 4 different pitches up there. So it's not like he struggled with one specific pitch. To your point, it's got to be a mechanical thing, similar to what Chris Sale talked about. And you can see that the mechanical issue for Sale is still affecting the fastball a little bit. But Iglesias has to have something. On the Phantom IL thing, every pitcher is sore. Every pitcher has soreness, right? If they wanted to do this, they have the ability to do it. And I do think in his situation, an IL stint maybe would be better than trying to say, we're going to leave you on the major league roster, but we're going to pitch you in the 7th versus the 9th. I do think that's a little bit of a tougher sell on a veteran.
And
like
Kimbrel's
him.
Close to being back and being ready too.
Kimbrel's also throwing 92, but Kimbrel is close to being back. He is in Gwinnett. He's looked, the results have been there in Gwinnett, just not the velocity. And you have to imagine with Atlanta, they're going to have him throw more knuckle curves and things like that.
Daysville will be the closer, be clear.
Yeah,
I just think, I'm just saying you have another reliever that you could call upon.
Yeah, like you can swap out his roster spot with Kimbrel and not have to get rid of anybody you have on the roster right now. How do you feel about Dylan Lee getting the save in the 10th? That's just, he's not had many opportunities, but he's been one of the better relievers in baseball in high leverage situations. He just never got used there.
He's been one of the better relievers in baseball since he came to the major leagues. I think he's a bit unheralded with what he's done. You just look at his numbers, but who else were you going to go to in that spot? Really? You'd already used Daysville. I think Pierce Johnson got up earlier in the game, but it just feels like Snitker doesn't really have that trust in Pierce Johnson this season so far. So I think Lee was the obvious choice, especially with Corbin Carroll being the leadoff hitter. He's really struggled against those sliders. We've seen it in this series a lot. So I thought obviously Dylan Lee was a good call to go to there. And
I thought he pitched well. I was happy with it. That's obviously not the choice I would make for the fill-in closer. If Iglesias was out, that's going to be Daysabel, but I do think Dylan Lee did well in that high leverage, and I want Snit to use him more in those high leverage situations. All right. Well, Atlanta Braves take down the Diamondbacks 8-7 in 10 innings. Tomorrow series finale, Braves are lined up for a sweep now, which we did not think would happen when we were in the 5th inning of this game. Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound opposite Brandon Pfaadt. Going to be a really interesting matchup. That game is at 4:10 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a postcast for you after the game. Do us a favor, if you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review for Locked On Braves, Spotify, Apple, whatever Google uses nowadays. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live with the next postcast and with Jake's Daily Pods. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.